All right, so this is going to be the one about home inspections versus appraisals. The two terms get thrown around a lot during the mortgage and home buying process. But what are the differences between the two? First things first, your home inspection is going to be done by a third party of your choosing. So what that means is you are going to go out and find your home inspector, decide who you want to work with, and you're going to contract them and pay them separately. That payment is typically not included in your closing costs. So your home inspection cost may include a structural inspection, it may include a pest inspection, it may include a septic inspection, a well and water test inspection. That's your home inspection. The home inspector wants to go through the house and make sure everything works right. They are going to go through and make sure the toilets flush, the lights turn on, fire alarms work, that all of the electrical outlets work. They're going to make sure the home is not crumbling structurally. Your home inspector is going to be your best friend. Once they go through the home, typically with you, if you can be present, they're going to put together a really long report about the home. They're going to put together probably multiple dozens of pages of all the nitty-gritty things that may be wrong with the home. Now, this need not be cause for alarm. A lot of times, things that come up in the home inspection can either be negotiated as part of your contract or they're easy fixes. I will let the specialists that do home inspections, the licensed home inspectors, and I will let the real estate agents talk more about what happens if something comes up on a home inspection. Tune in for a video about that soon. So we're going to leave the home inspection portion at that. We're going to say that the home inspector is going to provide you with a report with the nitty-gritty that's going on with the house. You do not want to send this home inspection report to your lender. It is not going to behoove you to send an itemized list of the things that could be wrong with your house to your lender. We don't want the inspection. Please keep it to yourself. So now that you know what a home inspection is, that you're going to pay for it separately outside of your closing costs, that it is for you to know exactly what's going on with your potential home purchase, let's talk about appraisal. Okay. So unlike a home inspector, you are not going to choose your appraiser. You're not going to be present at the appraisal. The appraisal is where the bank, the lender, sends an unbiased third party, usually drawn from a lottery of appraisers, to the home in order to complete the appraisal report, the value of the home. The appraisal, you can remember that. If your home inspection is to make sure you know the nitty-gritty that's wrong with the house, your appraisal is to make sure you understand the value of the home. So what the appraiser is going to do is they are going to go through the home, measure, take pictures, make sure the house is in good repair. The appraiser would be required to let us know if there are any safety hazards or anything major wrong with the house. We're going to talk about different types of appraisals for different types of properties here momentarily, okay? But for now, I just want you to understand the home inspection is for you to know what the nitty-gritty is that's wrong with the house, and the appraisal is the value. So once the appraiser goes through, they're going to research comparable sales in the area. They're going to make sure that they find homes that are similar to the home you're buying that have sold recently, typically within the last 6 months to a year from your property. So if you are buying a raised ranch in Saratoga Springs School District and it is in a neighborhood, then that appraiser is going to find another similar property, typically a raised ranch in Saratoga Springs Schools in a similar type of neighborhood, in order to compare that sale to your sale. They're going to use data from there, along with multiple comparable sales, to come up with a value and make sure that you are buying the home for that market value that they come up with. Now, a lot of times people will ask me, well, as long as the appraisal value comes in at the loan amount, that's good enough, right? Wrong. Big time wrong. I get asked this a lot by real estate agents that are newer to the business. The appraisal value must meet the purchase price of the home. So So that means if the sales price is $200,000, the home has to appraise for $200,000, even if the client is only borrowing $120,000. I'm going to do a separate video a little later on to show you what happens if a home under appraises. What happens to an appraisal value if seller concessions are involved? If you're financing your closing costs or rolling in a seller concession, let's say on our $200,000 purchase price amount, let's say you're rolling in $12,000 of your closing costs. That would make your purchase price $212,000. The home has to appraise for the purchase price plus the seller concessions. So that is a big myth in the industry that the seller concessions don't matter. They do. They have to be considered in the appraisal, and the home has to be able to appraise to encompass those seller concessions. So now we understand the basic difference between a home inspection and an appraisal. I am going to talk a little bit about how appraisals can be different depending on the different types of loans you're using. So your basic appraisal must appraise for purchase price applies to all types of loans unless a renovation loan is being used. More on that in a video in the future. A conventional appraisal is typically the easiest type of appraisal to pass. What I mean by that is there's less rules and regulations around requirements for a conventional loan appraisal. So as long as the home is habitable and safe and all the utilities are on and functioning, you should have no issues with a conventional appraisal passing and not having any repairs. Hopefully that makes sense. However, when you're looking at different types of lending, such as FHA, USDA, and VA loans, each of those rules has different specializations that the appraiser has to be licensed for. For example, an FHA appraiser may not be licensed to do a VA appraisal. So when an FHA appraiser goes out to the property, they're typically going to be looking for more hazards. They are going to be looking to make sure that the buyer is protected. So for an FHA appraisal, if there's chipping and peeling paint, you can count on that needing to be remedied prior to closing or being held in escrow after closing. Or for example, with a VA appraisal, did you know that a VA appraisal requires that there's a heating element in every bathroom in the home? Now you know. So depending on the type of loan you are getting, there may be different rules and regulations around that appraisal. Oftentimes I'll get asked, is this home going to pass appraisal? Most of the time I take a look at it and I say it looks fine to me, but it is going to depend on that appraiser. So once the appraiser goes out, they're going to see things in person that I may not be able to see as a lender. Also, an appraiser is a human being, so it can matter what kind of mood the appraiser is in that day on if something will or will not pass the repair portion of the appraisal. I hope that helps. I also like to say that appraising a home is an art, not a specific science. As mentioned, appraisers are human beings, so there is a certain aspect of humanity that comes along there. If you have issues with an appraisal, there are multiple things that we can do to help combat that value. One, we can always see if the seller will come down in price. Two, we can see if the appraiser maybe made a mistake and we can rebut the appraisal. Three, you and the seller, the buyer and the seller, can go ahead and try to come to an agreement if there's some sort of discrepancy in the appraisal value. More on that later. Check that one out for a future video. So I hope this helps you understand a little bit about the difference between home inspection and appraisal.